All right, let's just jump right in. Today, in this explainer, we're going to look under the hood of the global beverage industry and uncover the invisible data footprint of, well, your typical Friday night drink. Have you ever actually stopped to wonder what it takes to get that glass of wine, that icy cold beer, or that crafted cocktail right into your hands? And maybe more importantly, how do the massive corporations behind these drinks account for their global impact?
To figure that out, we're going to follow a sort of life cycle roadmap. We'll start by defining the FBAB industry, look at sourcing agricultural ingredients, managing water and energy, the packaging life cycle, and finally, marketing and responsible drinking. Basically, we're tracing the physical journey of your drink from the farm all the way to the bottle and finally to you.
To do this, we'll be using the official SASB framework. That's the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board. If you're new to this, just think of the SASB standards as the ultimate rulebook. It dictates exactly how these huge companies have to measure and report their environmental, social, and financial risks to their investors.
Okay, Section 1, defining the FBAB industry. Let's nail down exactly what sector we're analyzing here.
Under the Sustainable Industry Classification System, we are looking at the specific code FB-AB. That stands for alcoholic beverages. And this classification applies to the massive, sprawling global entities that manufacture our beer, wine, and liquor. We're talking about companies with huge portfolios of brands you'd absolutely recognize at the grocery store.
And honestly, this perfectly illustrates their core business model. It's really just a three-step physical transformation. These entities take raw agricultural crops, things like sugar, barley, and corn. They put them through the rigorous processes of brewing and distilling, and boom, out comes the finished drinks on our shelves. But because this whole process depends so heavily on agricultural yields, the industry is exposed to some pretty unique vulnerabilities. Which brings us to Section 2, sourcing agricultural ingredients. Our journey obviously starts at the farm, and sourcing those raw crops exposes companies to some major foundational risks.
Investors are hyper-aware of climate change, and they want highly specific data. The standard literally demands that companies report the exact percentage of their beverage ingredients sourced from regions facing high or extremely high baseline water stress. We're talking about areas where water stress ranges from 40 to over 80%. To put that into perspective, if your primary ingredient needs a ton of water and your supplier is in a region that is practically running dry, well, that's a massive financial red flag.
Zooming out from just water for a second, think about a drought hitting a massive barley field. That instantly translates into crazy price volatility and lost revenue. But it's not just the environment. Companies have to manage social risks too. Things like workers' rights, poor labor practices, or even human rights violations deep in their supply chain. Messing this up can lead to sudden regulatory fines, completely halted production, and terrible reputational damage. It hits the bottom line hard.
Moving right along to Section 3, managing water and energy. So once those ingredients are actually harvested, they head straight to the brewery or distillery, a process that relies heavily on two critical inputs. Now, the standard forces companies into making a super important distinction in their reporting: water withdrawn versus water consumed. Withdrawn water might just be borrowed, like used for cooling the machinery and then safely returned to the source. But consumed water, that's the water that evaporates during brewing or literally ends up trapped inside the final product that gets shipped away. And operating in water-stressed regions without caring about the local community, that is a huge risk to a company's social license to operate. If a local town feels like a giant corporate brewery is drinking up all their fresh water during a drought, the community backlash is going to be immediate. It can force severe operational shutdowns and send operating costs right through the roof. Energy is the other piece of the puzzle. They can't just throw out a single, vague energy number. They have to split their total consumption, measured in gigajoules, between standard grid electricity and certified renewable sources. And the rules are strict here. To claim renewable energy, it absolutely must come from sources like wind, solar, hydro, or certified biomass. This shows investors exactly who is future-proofing their business against fossil fuel price spikes. All right, Section 4, the packaging life cycle. With the liquid brewed, distilled, and ready to go, it needs to be safely bottled and boxed up. Interestingly, a lot of these beverage companies don't actually manufacture their own glass bottles or aluminum cans, but they still face heavy reputational risks and end-of-life legislation for the waste their products create. So they have to report the whole shebang. They track total packaging weight in metric tons, the exact percentage made from recycled materials, and crucially, what percentage can actually be recycled or composted by you at home. It proves to investors how they're reducing their reliance on extracting brand new virgin materials. Which brings us to our final stop, Section 5, Marketing and Responsible Drinking. The product hits the shelves and gets into the hands of the consumer, introducing a deeply human element to all this accounting. We really have to ask, how do these massive entities account for the societal impacts of the intoxicants they market and sell? Because, let's be real, this isn't like selling sparkling water. There are serious, real-world consequences to this product. The standard does not shy away from this at all. It explicitly warns that irresponsible consumption leads to terrible social externalities: addiction, drunk driving, underage drinking, and a whole host of public health issues. If companies fail to manage this, governments might force them to internalize these public health costs through new taxes, massive lawsuits, or catastrophic damage to their brand. To actually measure this financial liability, companies must track some rigorous marketing metrics. What percentage of their ads are actually being seen by people at or above the legal drinking age? How many times did they get busted for deceptive marketing or missing health warnings? And most tellingly, what was the actual dollar amount they lost from lawsuits related to their marketing? So the big takeaway here is that when these entities promote responsible drinking through education, it isn't just a PR stunt. By actively educating consumers on the dangers of binge drinking and drunk driving, they are calculatedly reducing their likelihood of extraordinary financial losses. It's basically a risk management strategy disguised as a public service announcement. As we wrap up this explainer, we've seen how a drink transforms from a thirsty crop into a highly regulated, globally marketed product. These standards demand incredible transparency, tracking every drop of water, every gigajoule of energy, and every single advertising impression. But I want to leave you with this thought. The next time you pour a glass of wine or crack open a cold beer, ask yourself, do these corporate metrics truly capture the invisible environmental and social costs hidden right there inside your glass? Thanks for joining me today. And keep questioning the data behind the products you love.